everyone. Welcome to our Honors Alumni Networking Night. My name is Shirleyah. I'm a biology student here at YSU, and I'll be your host. I'd like to start off with some introductions of our panelists. Would anyone like to start us off?
All right, I'll go. I'll rip off the Band-Aid. Okay, so my name is Julie Soul. I am working as a North American Projects Manager for Valorec Star, which, if you are local to the YSU area, it's that really big steel mill that sits right between 7-Eleven and 80 and Girard. So I've actually been there since I started interning there in college. I actually started in their facilities engineering department when they were building their brand new mill, and moved through a couple of roles there to where I am now. And previous to that, I got my civil engineering degree at YSU. I got my MBA at YSU, and also have some certifications in project management and Lean Six Sigma and some of those fun things. So that's just a quick synopsis. So I'm looking forward to talking with everybody. Thanks for having me.
Okay, I guess I can go next. My name is Chisa Echendu. I'm a radiation oncologist in Beaumont, Texas, which is about an hour east of Houston. I was a chemistry major at YSU and in the honors program. Graduated many, many years ago. I also got my master's in chemistry at YSU as well. And I moved to Houston after that and did a PhD in molecular virology and microbiology. And then I attended medical school also at Baylor College of Medicine. And after graduating, I did my residency in radiation oncology, and I've been practicing for several years now. So I take care of cancer patients and, just have a little fun. I love playing tennis. At YSU, I was very active in the tennis community, and it was a lot of fun at YSU. And so it's really great to meet everyone here tonight, and I'm happy to answer any questions you guys might have.
Hi, everyone. I'll go next. Thanks again, Molly, for having me here. My name is Jimmy Tancabel. I'm a PhD candidate in mechanical engineering at the University of Maryland. I got my bachelor at YSU. I got my bachelor's in both mechanical engineering and also math on the applied track. I just recently, last year, wrapped up my PhD proposal. So I was able to get my master's degree, and I'm looking to defend my thesis within the next few months. Look forward to answering any questions and getting to know you guys better.
All right, I guess I'll wrap it up. My name is Brooke Schaefers, and I'm a recent graduate from Youngstown State University. I graduated last year with a Bachelor of Science in Biology, and now I'm currently a graduate student in the Master's of Professional Science down here at the University of Miami in Florida, and I'm studying marine mammal science. So I'm focusing, it's very interactive, hands-on. I took a class and I'm now working at a facility called Dolphin Plus Marine Mammal Responders, where I basically help with the training of the dolphins, the behavior, medical care, and things like that. I'm really interested in marine mammal and disease. This May, I'm going back to the Galapagos. I went to the Galapagos in undergrad to do some research, and now I'm going back to do some more research. And then this summer, I'll be moving to California to do an internship for sea lion and seal rescue and rehab. So I'll be out doing stranding network. And then in the fall, I'm coming back to Miami to do another fall internship at where I'm working at now for a vet internship. So lots of hands-on interactive stuff with marine mammals. But I'm so excited to be here. I miss my honors family so much. So I'm so excited to see everybody.
Thank you all for being here tonight. We're so excited to hear about all of your stories and your experiences that started here at YSU, where we're all at now. So the first question we're going to start off with is, what was your experience at YSU and within the Honors College? Would anyone like to start off for us?
I'll go first. So I graduated in 2016. I matriculated in 2012 fall. So I lived on campus for all 4 years, and I really enjoyed that. It was not, I mean, I'm originally from Boardman, so I mean 20 minutes up the street, but it was nice to live on campus and like, you know, cut like sever the ties so I wasn't like completely dependent upon my parents. So like that really helped me grow up and like actually like grow into a much better person and better student. Uh, during my I'd say during my time I didn't really do as much when I started out. I was a member of honors trustees from my first year, and I eventually joined SGA in my second year and proceeded through with my fourth year. As I went along, like, and I also did dance club as well for all 4 years I was there. So those are among the things I did. I didn't do many, I guess, other things. I guess now that I think about it, but those are like the main things that I did. I definitely tried to step outside of my comfort zone and do, or at least try to, and do some things that I didn't really think I would enjoy, but that's just me.
So Jimmy says he didn't do too much outside of going to class, but it's more than I did. So I started, I want to say it was 2013. I'm going to have to think back in my brain now. But I was a university scholar student, so I lived on campus as well. And I'm from Youngstown, but just like Jimmy said, it was, you know, nice to not necessarily get away, but to, this is going to sound maybe bad, but be forced to grow up a little bit, be forced to live on my own, be forced to understand what it's like to have that level of responsibility, not just cleaning up after myself, but also remembering I need to do things like go grocery shopping. So, you know, the basic, oh, I need to be an adult now type things. Like I said, I mainly went to class and did those types of things, and then got my internship where I'm at right now at Valorec. And those are really the two main things that I was involved with outside of the typical scholar program activities. So, you know, it was good because I was able to focus really good on my studies, or really closely on my studies, and what I now do at Valorec, and integrated very well for those reasons. But at the same time, looking back on it, maybe I wish I would have spent more time getting involved in some of the other activities that happen on campus as well, because I didn't really get a chance to do that as much. So you did more than I did, Jimmy.
I can go next. You guys are so young. So I graduated in 2000. So I guess some of you may have been in grade school then. So I also lived in Cafaro House. I was one of the first transplants from community colleges. When the Scholars Program started, they started introducing transplants from community colleges, and I was one of those people who joined from Cuyahoga Community College in Cleveland. I had a fantastic experience at YSU. I was a member of the gospel choir, and that was a lot of fun. We did some traveling and performances and things like that. And I did the typical scholar stuff too. We, you know, the Shantytown projects, I'm not sure if that's still going on now. The Apple Butter Festival at Park Vista nursing home. I think that was at St. Elizabeth's or something, one of that nursing home close by there. Like I said before, I was very active with the tennis community. I wasn't on the team, but I played with a lot of the girls on the team, and I was always out there playing with Dr. Hanzeli, who I got a chance to see recently. And what else? I mean, there were a lot of options, a lot of things that we got to do. I made a lot of friends. I'm living on campus. I went to a lot of the games, the football games, the basketball games. They had an amazing recreational center with the pool. I was always there on Fridays. So it was fun. Cafaro House was amazing. We got to interact. I wasn't in the Neo Yukon program, but I got to interact with those kids from that program since I was kind of sort of pre-med and, you know, science-y. So it was nice. And I did a ton of research when I was a student there, mostly in the chemistry department. Dr. Jackson and, you know, Dr. Wagner, I'm not sure if they're still there, Dr. Curtis. So yeah, YSU gave me a really well-rounded experience. um, both academically and socially. It wasn't my first time being away from home. I did go to a boarding school for middle school, so I was used to that kind of communal living. But I think this was a different level, being an adult and taking care of yourself and not having other adults watching over you as a child. So I think I got to meet some really neat people, and I've made lifelong friends from my experiences at YSU.
I could talk about Youngstown for like hours, but to sum it up, it was the best 4 years of my whole entire life when they really do say that, college is the best 4 years. It was. I was an out-of-state student, so I did live in Cafaro House, and then I lived in the honors apartments, the courtyards, for the last 3 years of my time at Youngstown. But I don't know what I didn't do. I did so much. I was really active within honors, and I was on the recruitment team alongside Lexi, and then I also was an honors TA for some of the intro to honors classes, and then I was also on the honors trustee, so did tons of stuff within honors. And then outside of it, one of the things that was, I guess, most of my time was I was actually the YSU's feature twirler for the football team, so I was at every single football game twirling, practicing. And then gosh, I was a part of like Fresh Gwyn's first year student services. I helped out a lot there. I was involved in Greek life. I was in Delta Zeta sorority, and I did a lot within them. And a lot with student activities, just everything I possibly could get my hands in, I wanted to do. And it was just so amazing. I made so many friends, especially within honors. Lexi is like, I would bow down on my knees for Lexi. So love her so much. But it's so many lifelong connections, and it's given me so many great experiences and life lessons that I've been able to apply now to grad school. And I miss it so much, and I'm so glad to be here because I get to see all your guys. Well, I don't get to see your faces, but I know you're all there, and I just feel the, YSU energy in the home, because the Honors College is a home, and that was my favorite thing about it.
Thank you for sharing. So our next question is, did you see yourself working in the career that you're in now back as a freshman? And how has life changed, and how has it impacted you that led you to the career you're in now?
I think I'll go first. So I always wanted to do engineering when I was a freshman. I didn't really think grad school was in the I knew it was an option, but I didn't know if I wanted to do so. So I thought like, oh, I'll like get an engineering degree, get a job. Like when I was a freshman, that was my first thought. But like as I went along, it became like more and more of like a potential option for me. And also like the careers I wanted to have after having a couple internships, the careers I was looking to have required an advanced degree. And I was like, well, I already enjoy doing what I'm doing. So I would definitely like to go on, and I chose a PhD because of that. But when I was a freshman, I would honestly have to say no. I really didn't think that I'd be going to get my PhD after, well, many years from starting as a freshman about 10 years ago. So
I'll go next. My journey to my career now has been the most circuitous journey you can ever imagine. I was a chemistry nerd, and through, I wanted to be a chemist. That's all I thought about. That's all I wanted to be. And I wanted to be an industrial chemist specifically. And so I think that's one of the great things about YSU is that you really get a chance to broaden your horizons and kind of get a feel for so many different things. And so while I absolutely love chemistry, I wanted to do that for the rest of my life. I was a TA actually for organic chemistry for many years with the Center for Student Progress. I'm not sure if it's still there, but I did that for a while and I loved it. But I got a chance to do so many research projects. And in the midst of my research projects, I kind of fell into virology. So I was working on structure-function relationships with herpes viruses as part of a chemistry project. And then I was like, well, I really like how these viruses behave. I want to understand them better. What better way to understand viruses better than to go do a PhD in virology for no reason? So I went and did a PhD in virology. And then I was like, okay, well, while I'm doing the PhD in virology, well, I did a master's in chemistry first because I was still on that chemistry track. But in order to understand what the viruses were doing, I went and studied it, got a PhD. Now, while I'm in PhD school, I think my third year, I got diagnosed with breast cancer. And then it was like, okay, wait, I love doing research. I was working on viruses and how they cause cancer. And then I kind of morphed into more of the cancer side of things and was more like, studying oncolytic viruses and, how they do what they do. And, my personal experience with cancer was so overwhelming over everything else that I was like, you know what, maybe I should see what it's like to, study the human body as a whole and to help patients in a direct way. Of course, research is amazing and you help so many people. But I think that personal journey kind of led me towards medicine and specifically to radiation oncology. But I think all this to say that some of my experiences at YSU kind of helped me to stay broad in my interests and able to adapt when I needed to change disciplines, so to speak. So I'm kind of like, all over the place. I'm a chemist, I'm a virologist, I'm a physician, all kinds of things, but I'm all me. And so I think, I never saw myself as a radiation oncologist, to answer your question, but I think the transitions of life led me here with every single step.
Yeah, I think I'm going to build on that, although mine is definitely not, like, I think that's so cool that you went from, chemistry to viruses to oncology. I think that's fascinating. Mine, I promise, isn't that cool, but I think the message is still the same, right? The different life experiences that I had ended up pushing me in this direction, but I'm going to push it back even further. So when I was in high school and I was trying to determine what I wanted to major in, probably in junior year, I was very much like, well, I enjoy some sciences and math, so I could do engineering, but I also like English, so I could go into English. And it was all like I had no idea. I had two main interests, right? And so I ended up kind of digging deep and finding out that I wanted to do engineering. But the reason that I picked civil engineering is because civil engineering can go in a lot of directions: transportation, water, environmental, structural, of the engineering, the reason that I chose it is because I could be the most indecisive going into it and then figure out where I wanted to end up coming out of it after, life had shaped me a little more. So I went down the civil engineering path. And like I had mentioned, an internship opened up at Valorec, which is a steel manufacturer. That's not necessarily something that people with civil engineering backgrounds gravitate towards, but it was an internship, so it was good experience. So I decided to accept the position, of course, and I ended up really liking it where I'm at now. And so there was some civil, aspects to it because we were building a new mill, but also there was this very large steel component, of course, right? And then after my internship, a position opened up in their continuous improvement department. That's industrial engineering. I didn't have a lick of industrial background. In fact, if you do have industrial background, Six Sigma Black Belt is something that you're probably familiar with as a certification for continuous improvement. In my interview for that position, I made a karate joke because I did not know what a black belt was. So the good news is everyone was very good-natured about it, right? But it was essentially me being like, okay, what direction is life pushing me in? Seems interesting. Let's do it, even though I don't necessarily have the background for it. And so I was in that role for a couple of years, got a lot more steel background, but also if you were doing continuous improvement, you're managing projects. Cool. I always knew going into civil engineering, I never wanted to be a design engineer because I liked having interaction with people. So now that I was getting project exposure, it was on the continuous improvement side, but it was still very much appealing to my interests. And then at the time, my boss came to me and said, so I've got this position. They do investment projects, and they're over all the investment projects for the plant in Youngstown. Would you be interested in it? And I was like, yeah, I don't have any investment background. And, accounting isn't really my thing. I'll probably make another karate joke because I'm going to be so far out of my element. And he's like, no, I want this to be more project focused. I think you should take it. So I took it, and it became very project focused, and I ended up getting a lot of accounting background. And I was like, oh, I don't know anything about accounting or finance. I'm gonna go get an MBA so I can learn about this now. And so every single decision and every single, life event, an internship, working with people in a different type of industry, taking a different position, it really ended up just kind of shaping the direction that I went in and made me realize, you know what, I like engineering work and math, but I like managing projects and working with people. And, I'm really interested in always improving things. Everything that I do, when I look back on it, I'm all in my house, I'm trying to do chores more efficiently and continuously improve that, right? So all of these things and these roles I'm drawing on, and I'm like, I would never, ever expect to work as an industrial engineer, but I could see how that jives with my personality. I would never expect myself to work with investments, but it's really project management that is tying with accounting and finance. But I see how that jives with my personality and all of these things. And so definitely looking back on it, if you asked if I thought I would wind up here, hardcore no, but I'm glad that I did, because again, it's all of these different pieces to get me where I'm at. And I really enjoy it, actually, because I get some technical aspects involved with the project. I get the people aspects of being with the project. And then there's also, some engineering off to the side where I can, with my nerds be like, hey, let's talk about this water treatment project. It's a lot of fun, So it's been a good journey, but I definitely didn't see it going in this direction at all.
Yeah, I'm gonna push it even further back. So I knew I wanted to be a marine biologist since I was 7 years old. That's kind of crazy, but my grandparents took me to an aquarium in Florida, and I got to feed a manatee cabbage, and that was the moment. Like, I told my parents, I was like, I'm being a marine biologist, and I have never wavered. I've been set on it forever. But just kind of like what everybody else is saying too, like when I was in high school thinking about where to go for undergrad, I could have went straight to a university that had a marine biology undergrad, but I knew I wanted to have a really strong math background, a really strong chemistry background and everything, because not that like just going straight to marine biology isn't a great option, but I knew I wanted to have that different background so that if I wanted to do something a little bit more and go into research, I had that strong foundation skills. So I did go to Youngstown just for biology, and you'll actually see it's a lot more common. Like, I thought I would be the odd man out, but then when I've come down here, there's so many people in my program that they were dental majors. They were maybe English majors, they were engineering, I have a theater major in my program. So just all different majors. As long as you have the required coursework, then you can get accepted in things. And through like Youngstown, I really got that strong, background and everything like that. And it was super cool. And, I kind of got to make the program how I wanted to make it, because obviously it wasn't focused on marine classes. So I kind of got to structure my degree around the classes I wanted to take. And then I was lucky enough to Dr. Rene, who's one of you guys might have had him for a few classes. I was lucky enough to be able to go with him to the Galapagos, and that actually got me interested in the medical side of marine mammals. And I did research on bioaccumulation of DDT in Galapagos sea lion and how it connects to cancer, and just how that all started. Now I'm actually doing that research down here in grad school. My first week of classes, I had a presenter all the way from California speak to us, and she basically, what my research was is what she does every day as a job. And it was just amazing to make that connection, and I've made so many connections down here. And when I came down here, I knew I wanted to do marine biology, had no idea what that meant, didn't know if that was training, didn't know if that was like rescue rehab, if it was research. I had no idea, because I didn't know there was so many different areas in marine mammal science. I thought it was just training. And then I came down here, and there's so much to do. So definitely leaning more towards the rescue rehab side so I can still do my medical and health background, but we'll see. But yeah, like everybody else, while my track was a little bit more straightforward, all the stuff that I did prepared me for it, and I gave me a really strong background and has made me be able to be a stronger candidate for certain things and make connections.
So you all have had different paths and ways to getting to where you're at now. How has networking helped you with your career?
so networking has absolutely been paramount to get me where I'm at. That's actually how I ended up getting the internship that landed me where I am, obviously, at the moment. But the funny thing about networking to me is when you hear about networking, or at least when I heard about networking in class, it was like going to events and, you know, you have a mixer and you meet with the people and you have a conversation about your profession and your interests and your life goals. And then you talk for 15 minutes and you move on to somebody else. And then you have the, you know, on repeat. And of course, those things exist and they're very valuable. But a lot of the times I've found that the networking that I have done and have, you know, really benefited from have been extremely informal. And I never imagined that that would help with some of the, you know, the opportunities that I have right now, not just at work, but also with volunteering with organizations and things from that standpoint. You know, working with people in, you know, a neighborhood organization to make maple syrup. You know, just having fun, we're making maple syrup. And all of the people that you meet and some of the life advice that they give you and some of the connections that they lead you to down the line that help you get further in your career. And so, you know, when you talk, or at least when I read about networking and was introduced to it, I think of it as being so, you know, official and on paper. But I guess my advice would be any you know, communication that you have with somebody, any connection that you make is really networking and can be an opportunity that you could draw from later in life. Because if you're in a situation where you need somebody's advice or help, you may not realize it, but somebody that you're friends with or somebody that you're friends with, parents or whatever, may have that exact background that you're looking for and may need help with. So networking has been hugely helpful for me, but I think it's, you know, it wasn't what I imagined it would be from the get-go. It's definitely been much more organic than I thought it would be at first.
Yeah, just to piggyback off of that, networking is so important. I wish I could just like shake all your heads and tell you how important networking is. It is so adamant, especially like in my field, it's very, very small. So it's about who you know, and that's how you're going to get the jobs. And it's just so important, even starting from like how she said, going out and volunteering at places and making those connections, because you don't even know like what further down the line connections that they have, or maybe down the line you're like, oh wait, like I did this and I know someone that's involved in that, I could reach out to them, and how that can open so many doors. And it's just so important, especially like for my internship that I recently applied for. We have this on my campus, we have like a restaurant and we call it Wet Lab, and they do like little kind of like just chill nights where people come together, the professors, the local community, the students, and you can just like basically eat and chill and whatever things. And I went to a Wet Lab night and I met so many people. And from that, I actually met someone who was like, oh, I actually did an internship at this place. Like I can give you like recommendations, and I can actually speak to this person and give you a good like, you know, recommendation and things like that. And that was just from me going out and getting food like for a certain night. Like had no idea who this person was. And now I have an internship in California just from meeting her and applying and her giving me tips. So it's just so key, and you need to start as early as possible, because not that you can't network down the line, but when you start now, it just sets you up to be more prepared in the future. And you just never know, like what we said, like you never know when it's going to happen. You could just be out at the general supermarket and you can run into someone, and that's like a connection. So definitely start networking whenever possible, because it is the most valuable thing ever. And it's fun. You're meeting so many people who have these crazy stories and crazy backgrounds. Like even just all of us on here tonight, I've never actually physically met these presenters, but now just hearing about them, I'm so amazed by everything they do. And now we're all networking and creating connections. So it's very valuable.
Let me say that I think some people, depending on your personality, when you hear the word networking, you go into a panic mode, and you start sweating, your palms get wet, and you're like, I don't want to talk to people. I just want to be in my little dark room and just be by myself. And you don't have to be an extrovert to network. You don't have to be this bubbly, outgoing person. I'm naturally not, out there talking to people. But honestly, you can network in the most basic of ways. I think the previous speakers have touched on that. For those of you who are involved in Greek life, of course, Greek life is networking. I mean, what else? It's not just partying and having fun and meeting friends. There is a huge component of networking. These are your lifelong sisters and brothers and business partners in the future. For those of you who play sports, I mean, that's part of it too. It doesn't have to be a big formal thing for it to count as a networking event. So take every opportunity you have. I cannot overstate the importance of networking. I came to the YSU University Scholars Program through networking. I knew nothing. I'd never heard of YSU in my life. I was born and raised in Nigeria. Never heard of Youngstown. I lived in Cleveland with my family. And through networking, I got to know about the University Scholars Program. So, and it wasn't like a big event networking. I was literally selling candy in the bookstore, and I got to meet friends who came through the bookstore. And that's how you get to get information that can help you. And you can also provide information to others that can help them. So it's kind of a back and forth thing. So networking can be on a big scale, it could be on a little scale. Don't panic. You don't have to be, outgoing. Just use whatever opportunities you have, big or small, and make them count. I'm sitting in my office now, and I got this job also through networking. And this is, the job that I've dreamed of, really. And there were other opportunities I could have had, but to be in this situation, it was through just people I met randomly. Like, Brooke said earlier, just having lunch with people, someone will say something or you hear something, and, you just never know. I'm not, for those of you in the group who are not like out there big party people or, in big crowds kind of people, my people, just know you can still network in your own way, in your own little way. With small groups, big groups, you can find your way through whatever, but it's very important that you do so.
Yeah, everything that everyone said before now is exactly how I feel. Since I'm just wrapping up my PhD now, networking is the single most important thing that I can do because I want someone to hire me. And our research group is sponsored by however many companies or whatever, but all of those people were actually just on campus last week for semi-annual meetings. And our research group has a mixer event at the evening of one of our meetings, and it's an opportunity for you to talk to these industry professionals who could put in who even if they're not like going, even if you don't expect them to, oh, they're going to put in a good word for me because they saw my presentation, it was a good presentation, or they liked what I was talking about. These are people that they might not give you like advice on their particular company. They could just give you advice on just in the field, in like the field in general, or as people have said before, just in life in general. And admittedly, when I first got here and I was like the new person here and I entered with one other person, we were entering and there were two people defending their dissertations in a week and one person finishing their master's later in the month. And that feels intimidating because, oh, I just graduated with my bachelor's degree and my colleague had just finished her master's degree. We both came here, and you feel like these industry professionals they've been doing what they're doing for 25, 30 years. Just because that's the case, you don't have to even right at the start talk to them about, oh, well, how do I get a job when I'm leaving here in 5 years? You can look for different things to talk about. You can look for advice on what did you like or dislike about your undergrad education, especially if you're a freshman. Like you're just starting. There's no reason to your career is going to come. We worry about that when it comes, but you can always ask someone, what was your experience and what do you wish you could have done better, or what do you wish you could have had more experience in before you left, because you still have a lot of time before your career comes and there's still so much opportunity to grow that networking doesn't just have to be about your job. It can be about how could you improve your education, and like other people said, or even just your own personal life. Like you don't have to go to any of these networking events or whatever they are and talk about work. You can talk about whatever you want, and you might actually, and if something improves your personal life, that's going to going to transitively improve your work life, your academic life. All aspects of your life are going to get better if one or the other gets better. So you don't necessarily just have to focus on the work and the academics part. You talk to people about things. If someone else is at a mixer and they're not talking to someone, they wouldn't be there if they didn't want to talk. So don't feel like you're inadequate or that you aren't qualified to talk to some of these people. Just go up and have a conversation with them and ask them about their experience, because there's rarely going to be a time where they're going to tell you something that's just going to be completely and totally off the wall. And if they do, at least you stepped outside of your comfort zone. Because I'm someone who, like Chisa said, I'm very much introverted and I don't like talking to people. And I would rather someone approach me than approach someone else. But sometimes even one experience of doing that and you realize, oh, hey, this wasn't that bad, then it'll get better, and then it'll feel more natural as it goes.
So networking has helped you all with your career paths. What did you do during your time at YSU and in the honors college that has helped you feel prepared for your future?
So I think I'll start. I'd say specifically with regards to honors. So like obviously the academics is important. The academics, like, not necessarily what you are learning, but learning to learn is really important. And you'll find, regardless of what degree you have, what field you're in, a lot of times your degree, yes, you're learning things, like you need to know certain things to be in certain fields, but learning how to gain new knowledge and how to apply new knowledge is probably one of the most important things. And being in honors, one thing that I really liked is, oftentimes, depending on your major, as an engineer, alone in my scholars class, there were at least 10, 15 engineers maybe. So like you have people that you can work together with. Working in a group is always better than working by yourself. Most of the time in your career, you're going to, at some point in time, you're going to be working with someone else. So even if it's not like on a group project, but like collaborating on your homework, teaching each other things, learning and growing together is probably the biggest thing that honors allowed me to do. It allowed me to gain a community and be in a community with other people who are all trying to succeed, and we're all willing to lift each other up to do that. And that's, I think, the biggest thing that I can say on that.
Yeah, I'll second that. I think that, having that community of people was wonderful from a family standpoint, right? But to build on that, it's exactly what you said. You're going to be learning with people. You're going to be growing with people far past your time at YSU. That's what we do as humans in general, right? And so I think, the learning how to function with other people, not just in a, living together sense if you happen to live together on campus, but also in that feeding each other with different ideas and making sure you listen to other people's ideas, and maybe finding people that don't have the same personality type as you do, but you have to work with them. And how do you do that? And how do you make sure that it's a beneficial interaction, because you are working with these people that have different ways of thinking than you do naturally. I think that was absolutely very beneficial, not just from a self-growth standpoint and promoting others to grow as well, but I don't want to bring it back to that networking question, but that's really how I ended up making a lot of the relationships that I did that led to networking. And it's that whole, we grow together. I acknowledge that you think differently than I do, and it helps me where I'm weak, right? Your strengths are my weaknesses and vice versa. So that in itself becomes a way to network and to say, you know what, I'm really weak here, but I know somebody who's really strong at that. And so I think that whole interaction, communication, growing together piece is kind of, built from a foundation standpoint, at least during my time at YSU, right? And then has just helped me copy paste that wherever I end up going, and kind of pull some of that with me from previous places like YSU as well. But I think that was definitely a good building block for me to learn there, and then obviously expand on and now in my time. So
what I would say is there is a large selection of opportunities on campus for all kinds of personalities, all kinds of majors, all kinds of interests. And I think everyone should be engaged or engaging in something. You cannot go through college and just go to class, take tests, and go home. That's not a full experience. So I think to get that full college experience, YSU really does offer a lot. So, you know, for for the size of the school that we have, and you know, the part of America that YSU is in, I think there's so many things I can't even begin to tell you. So I think everyone should plug in to something. Don't wait to be in, you know, big city lights. I want to wait till I'm in, you know, Miami or Las Vegas to do something big. You can do big things in Youngstown. I'm telling you, don't take for granted the opportunities that you have right now, because if you do well in the situation you're in, you will shine when you move forward to the next step. So, you know, if you're waiting for that big city opportunity, that, you know, corner office in New York City, that starts now. That when you start your corner office mentality starts at YSU. You start by leading organizations or helping to move agendas forward, whether it's student government or whether it's, you know, whatever sporting team you're a part of, or, you know, choir in my case, or just whatever. There are so many things you can do that would create that will build you up as a person and make you feel so prepared. I was a tutor. I was a chemistry tutor at the Centers for Student Progress, and I tutored kids who were going to study for the MCAT. I wasn't planning to take the MCAT. You just never know when, you know, the opportunities you really enrich yourself with would help you. So don't take anything for granted. You know, I know I have, you know, kids now who are almost teenagers, and they're like, oh, why do we have to know this stuff? Why do we have to know this stuff? You know, this algebra sucks. Why do we have to know this? Yeah, I mean, you might feel like things suck right now. Why do I have to know this? But everything would make sense at some point. And, you know, if I'm going back to my chemistry experience, I remember, like, you know, first year general chemistry, then organic chemistry. When I got to physical chemistry, it just felt like everything clicked. Like all of a sudden, all the things we learned first and second year, at least for me, for some people it didn't click. But anyway, it all of a sudden made sense. Some people thought I was crazy. Like, no, physical chemistry doesn't make sense. But the point is, the things you feel like are not important right now, or the things you think are so insignificant, might be the very things that would get you to where you need to be. So that thing you're trying to do, don't take it for granted. Just go ahead and do it.
Yeah, I obviously second everything everybody has said, but I guess to go across that to what really all my experiences have prepared me for is, it might be surprising, but when I started at YSU, I was so shy. I was scared of everything and I was so timid, but the people there, honors, just in general, all those people just made me confident. They made me want to get outside of my box. They made me want to step out and do these opportunities. And I think that's one of the biggest things that through YSU and all my experiences and my organizations and being feature twirler, being in honors, was I got the confidence to just be proud of myself and be proud of everything that I do and everything that I've done, because everything that you guys are doing right now, you worked so hard for it. Nothing is ever given to you. You've worked so hard for it. And I think that's a thing that we kind of forget about sometimes. And we have this like, we lack this confidence in a way where we think, oh, I won't be good enough for this. Because when I was applying to University of Miami, I was like, there's going to be so many people around the world, because my program only accepts 8 people and it's international. And I was like, there's no way I'm making it in. Like, they accept everyone. I'm just this little girl from Youngstown State. And when I emailed my advisor and basically like listed everything that I did in honors, everything that I did at YSU, my experiences, my research and stuff. And I wasn't a marine biology major, I was just biology in general. And I didn't really have too many experiences with marine mammals, but just that I put that confidence out there and I was like, you know what, like I'm going to go for this because there is that opportunity. One of the things when I got accepted, my advisor said that what stood out to her was all the stuff I did in honors and all the stuff that I was able to juggle with school and be able to just be that well-rounded individual. Because like they said, like, yeah, you can go to class every day and go home, but it's really the experiences outside of class that makes you the person who you are. And I think just another experience in honors in general that I think they do so well in preparing you guys is we all obviously are the biggest perfectionists and procrastinators we know. And we think that we have to be the best. We have to get straight A's. We have to have that perfect GPA. And I've come to grad school. I was that too. I thought I had to have the perfect 4.0 to get into grad school. And now I'm in here and I don't want to say they don't care about your grades, but my professors more care about how you apply that knowledge that you've gotten from your classes or apply the knowledge from your undergrad. And I think honors does an exceptional job in that because they allow you to think outside of the box, and the classes and the classwork and the many opportunities allows you to just get out there and think in a different way than what you would usually think. And I've been able to use those skills that I've gotten from here down here in my classwork. And I'm like, okay, you know what? Maybe let me think of this a different way. And, while yes, always strive to be your best, but don't ever doubt yourself if you don't get that A on that exam, because ultimately in the end, it's the experiences and that hand-on knowledge and see how you can apply it that is more important than having perfect A's in everything about it. So there's just, in general, Youngstown and honors has given me so many opportunities that have set me down the right path. And I don't think I would be here today if I didn't have that support. Like I just had Lexi yesterday be a reference for an apartment for me in California. So, it's just, there's so many connections and just experiences that you're going to get that down the line is going to be so beneficial. And you're going to think back to that. Oh, wait, like I do that all the time. I always think about, oh, I remember this. And like when I was at YSU, oh, like I could use this, like when I did this. And so you're always going to look back at those moments and they're so beneficial to you.
Wow, you guys have such amazing stories, and it's so great to know that all of your stories began right here in the Honors College where we're all at now. So it's about 10 minutes left, and I would like to open the floor up to anyone who has any questions for our panelists. You can either turn on your microphone or put them in the chat box.
So there's a question asking if I ever found it difficult to stay motivated during school. I think, I'm going to touch on something Brooke mentioned earlier about being in grad school and people not really caring much about your grades, but more about how you think. That is so true. But I know there are many of you here, honors type A type people who cannot even imagine that. Like I used to feel like my world was going to end if I got an 89. Like that was the end of me. I mean, I remember one semester, no, we were still in quarters then. I took 28 credit hours. I don't know what I was thinking. And then I think I was on the verge of getting 2 Bs. They were going to be my first Bs ever. And I was having panic attacks. I was going to die because I was about to get a B. I mean, looking back now, I'm like, what wasted time and energy, I spent trying to get A's, A's are important and doing well in school is important, but learning how to think and learning how to work is even more important than that. So to answer your question, did I feel difficult to stay motivated? I think naturally, just my personality is always like very naturally high strung. I'm going to admit that. I'm naturally type A, wanting to excel, wanting to be the best at all the, everything. And so I was always naturally motivated. There were a lot of things that were a little distracting on campus, but I think I was able to balance things out because I had a good group of people around me. And I think living in Cafaro House helped because you saw everyone kind of, striving to do things, big things. And so, they push and you push. And so we kind of pushed each other to stay motivated. So I think overall, I would say I didn't have a difficult time staying motivated.
I can go off of that too, because I can offer like the opposite perspective. Definitely like was motivated, but there were a few times where I ran into like where I kind of I maybe like, is this really, worth putting in all of this effort and things like that, especially because like I'm in marine mammal science and up here in Ohio in Youngstown, there's no oceans, there's no marine mammals unless I go to an aquarium or something like that. So there was a few things like, it kind of like, what we always say, out of sight, out of mind. So since I wasn't like seeing that stuff, since I wasn't actually hands-on working with marine mammals, there were a few times where, I was doing these classes that, maybe didn't pertain to marine biology in general. And I'm like, oh, is this worth it? Should I keep going? Or whenever there was like a roadblock in the way, like someone asked about were there any negative experiences? And I think a perfect one is, I know we hate talking about it, but COVID. I had an internship at the Cleveland Aquarium, and it was my first hands-on experience doing marine mammal work. And it obviously got canceled due to COVID. So that was a huge negative setback for me. And I was super nervous because I was going to apply to grad school with no actual marine mammal experience other than my research, which also got cut short due to COVID. So it was really scary. And I definitely were a few times I was like, is this like, should I keep going? Should I keep pushing through? But I always looked back, and I think this is an important thing, is you just always need to do a reality check of yourself. I used to always talk about this with my intro to honors classes, but I'm really big about self-care. I love my bubble baths, and I told so many people, if I'm moving down here to Miami, as long as I have a bath, I'm set. And so, just doing that reality check and look back and maybe just reflect on like, why are you doing all of this? Like, who are you doing this for? And the person that I was doing it for was that 7-year-old girl who said she wanted to be a marine biologist in Sarasota, Florida. And that's the person I was doing it for. And so I always looked back to that little girl. I always remembered that little girl. I would look at photos. I would look at, in 5th grade, I have a little book of me that literally says right next to it, I will be a marine biologist when I grow up. And I would always go back and look at that. And I'm like, you know what? Like, it's hard. There's times that I didn't want to get out of bed. There was times I didn't want to open up those notes and studies or go to that organization meeting. But all of that was to make sure that little girl's dreams came true. So if anything, if you guys are ever wondering, like, or struggling with motivation to keep going or to keep striving towards your goals, always look back at why you're doing it and who's that person that you're trying to achieve your dreams for and your goals. And I think that's going to help and set you on the right path, because ultimately you're going to be more upset if you don't push yourself towards that way.
Yeah, I'm going to answer the question that Natalie asked about the negative experience piece and then link it back to exactly what Brooke was talking about. So in one of my previous questions or answers, I guess, I had mentioned how I was working in continuous improvement, and then my boss came to me and he had said, we have this position over investments for projects, you should take it. And so I took that position, and a week after I took that position, he was my boss, he was the expert in the area. He had gotten diagnosed with cancer and he had to leave. And so not only was that very traumatic because he was a mentor for me and a friend, but I had no idea what I was doing. And not only did I have no idea what I was doing, the previous person in the role was no longer with the company, and my boss had been handling that position. And obviously he was now getting treatment for his problems were way bigger than mine, right? but I had no, that pushed me to get my MBA because I had absolutely no idea what I was doing. And so that, setback of me trying to, I had been in my career for a couple of years now. I knew what I was doing in continuous improvement. People relied on me for information, and it was like I was starting at ground zero again, not just from a knowledge standpoint, but also people in the company were looking to me for answers that I couldn't give them because I didn't have the historical background that, the company had because the previous person had left. And so in that situation, it became very apparent that adapting and figuring out how to just rely on my previous strengths to guide me through what this role should be. And it was very subjective, right? I had nothing to build on except what I thought this role should be and how it should handle it, or how I should handle it. And, who knows looking back on it if it was right, but I think I've done a decent job with it. And hopefully the people around me think so. And so it builds a bit on what I think Brooke was saying earlier about, number one, rely on your confidence. I was scared, I was terrified, right? But I had to rely on the skills that I had. And number two, the second piece that Brooke really hit home for, and if there's one thing that you take away from this, at least from me, it's that self-care aspect. Because here I am focusing, and I'm type A. Chisa hit it on the nose, right? I'm type A, everything has to be perfect. I'm looking at finances, so my numbers need to match to the cent. And I'm freaking out about not knowing this job, and somebody is dealing with a cancer diagnosis and literally battling for his life, right? And so it really puts things in perspective of, I am freaking out about the smallest details when in reality, what matters, what's important? And it's really that whole self-care piece. Being successful in my career is very important to me, but is that how I define myself? Is that my life? And having that experience, again, from a career aspect, like I just described, was very important and shaped me. But that experience also very much made me take a step back and realize what's important to me and who am I outside of my career, because life is much more than that. And not just is life much more than that, but you are much more than that too. So you need to find time to make sure you're taking those bubble baths. You are taking the time to realize that I'm off $3 on a spreadsheet. It's going to be okay. I will figure that out at a later time. And if I don't, that's also okay, because I need to have some margin of error that's acceptable to me if I'm not going to drive myself crazy in the process. So I know I'm kind of marrying answers here, but it was really informative, again, from a career perspective, but also that I need to figure out what's important to my whole comprehensive life, not just me as a professional. And that self-care piece has become extremely important along the way. So I've mentioned it, I will mention it again. If there's one thing you take away from me as you go through this presentation here, focus on yourself outside of just your schooling and your career, because that self-care piece is really important to figuring out who you are and also living so that you can do what you want to do in your profession and beyond.
I have a couple questions directed at me in the chat window, so I'll try to blow through every question that I can really quickly. The negative experiences, yes, and as I actually advanced, the longer my PhD, and to the point I am now, I actually just had a discussion about this with one of the faculty here. As you go on, and as everyone's mentioned, almost everyone in here is probably type A, needs to be perfect, all those related things. Life is going to be a series of failures and failures and failures, and research is going to be like that. But the thing is, that's okay. If you're not messing up, you're not growing. So and not everything's going to be perfect. So you got a 99 on a test. It wasn't 100%. That's okay. You didn't do as well as you thought you were going to do in something. It doesn't have to be school. In whatever sporting event you're doing, that's fine. It's that those things are going to happen. You just have to learn from it, realize that it's going to happen, even if you don't want it to happen, and learn from it. And then the next time, you know that you'll be better. You'll know that you'll be better for it, and that experience was valuable. With regard to PhD programs, every program is different. Research being necessary or not, or activities involvement, it's a little bit of both. It depends on what your major is. Some some programs prefer a master's degree to come into a PhD program. Others will allow you to matriculate directly with a bachelor's. It's pretty program specific. Most stressful time of your PhD is the entire time. It's supposed to be hard. The point of a PhD is to blaze new trails. The whole thing is going to be difficult. But it's designed like that. It's supposed to be difficult. And then the last one, mathematics. We're running out of time. Natalie, I'll actually be on campus next week for the orientation event going on. If you want to meet and discuss, we can actually talk about it in person next week. But I think what I'm really getting to, like, with a negative experience is, like, I don't mean to sound like pessimistic, like, oh, you're going to be a failure, life is going to be bad, but you have to understand, like Julie just said, there is a margin for error. When a company is submitting a bid for a proposal, if you stick to the budget, that is like the top level thing that you can get, and that's like perfect. No one ever sticks to budget. It's very hard to do. People get paid very good money to come up with those numbers, and sometimes the numbers are still off. That's okay. It's almost like trying to teach yourself or psychoanalyze yourself into saying failure is okay. And again, that sounds terrible. I sound like a very terrible pessimistic person, but you have to understand that things are going to be okay. Just because one thing didn't go your way, that's all right. You don't have to. And I found that when I came to realize that sometimes I'm not going to have as much progress in my weekly report that I'm going to want to, that's okay. That doesn't mean I didn't learn anything. You don't always necessarily need to highlight all of the good things that are happening. Sometimes failing to learn something the first time it's going to happen a lot more often than you'll get it the first time, and that's okay. And sometimes a lot of times, like with me, sometimes I just needed to, like, someone to tell me that was okay, or I needed to tell myself that that's okay. So just some things to think about there.
I'm gonna be, for everyone listening, I know we're out of time. If you don't take anything out of this, for the honor students, you've listened to the co-hosts and all these wonderful accomplished people from the honors program, and wondering, oh my God, am I ever gonna be as, eloquent as they are? Am I gonna be as smart as Julie is, or as accomplished as Jimmy is, or as enthusiastic and awesome as Brooke is? But you have what you need to do what you have to do. And Jimmy just hit the point. There's margin for error. There's margin for error. So just take it one step at a time, do what you need to do, and don't put too much pressure on yourself. Honestly, I'm speaking to all my type A people, relax, okay? It's okay to relax, and if you don't do well on one test, the world doesn't end. Nobody's gonna remember what you did in your differential calculus class or whatever. Just take it easy, enjoy the experience, learn, be flexible. Don't tie yourself into a knot because of, what high expectations you set for yourself. I'm not saying don't set high expectations, set them, but don't go crazy because of these things. There is margin for error.
Thank you all for sharing your experiences with us and all of your stories. It was amazing getting to hear how you all got to where you are now. You all have such inspirational stories. It was just great meeting you all. And thank you to all of our honors students who joined us tonight. I hope you all have a great night.